Welcome to Google Ads Unleashed, the podcast that helps you harness the power of Google Ads. And now your host, Jeremy Young.
Hello guys, and welcome back to Google Ads Unleashed. Hope everyone is doing fine. Happy New Year, everyone. Today might be one of the most exciting episodes of all time, actually. This one will be top this time. I'm hoping I'm not bigging you up too much, John.
No pressure.
No pressure. We've got John Moran on, who is, the term PPC legend might not be an understatement. But you know what? I'm going to leave the introduction a bit to you, John. You've had an incredible career. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Yeah. So I started a little over 10 years ago inside of the marketing space digitally, and I was in the marketing space for 10 years before that. Mm-hmm. So I've had kind of the last 20 years of my life, pretty much since I was 16 years old, has been inside of marketing and lead generation. So it was a natural kind of evolution from traditional media to digital.
How do you slip into that?
So
we had one, right? Like everyone's somehow sort of slid into it.
Yeah. So I had a family-owned company that did automotive marketing. So we did lead generation for car dealerships and also the insurance companies that are tied to them. And so we're using digital for like texting, videos, and email marketing and SEO back then and that kind of stuff. So we're doing like some digital, some traditional, some kind of text message was all the rage, back in 2010 and that kind of stuff. So I had a company that was doing that. My vendor at the time was a guy named Qasim Aslam. And that is my partner that I started Solutions 8 with. And we ended up, he was building my websites for me. I ended up shutting down my company due to a bad private investor to try to steal the intellectual property rights. And at the same time, Qasim actually bought out his partner in order to kind of, kind of grow on his own.
So I know him. Yeah. Yeah. I've actually messaged with him before as well.
Yeah.
he is dangerously smart. A very, very clever guy.
Yeah, he is. He's very, very, very intelligent. And we made a good team because, he never really was inside of the ad space, and he was more on the kind of the outside building on the businesses. I was the one building in the business. So like I'd be in, my dungeon making all these cool things, and he would go up on stage and showcase them. So it was perfect. Like we had a great partnership. Still do. Still own actually 2 businesses together till this day. But so him and I linked up, started Solutions 8. It was already kind of, the ball was rolling, but it was just, 12 clients losing $5,000 a month, had 1 employee, and that was Qasim and I. And so we had 3 months to really make it work. Otherwise we're both like losing our houses and, that kind of stuff. So that was in 2015. And yeah, I know, right? Started pushing into digital marketing, all aspects. We did full funnel. So it was Meta, it was Google, it was, YouTube coming out then more and more. We did SEO, we did website development, we did email marketing campaigns, we did landing page development, we did website development, app development, you name it. We did wash your car, walk your dog. We'll do that too. Like we did everything. And so like,
that's a very unusual business. PPC. There's some business combinations like that. Sometimes, why do cobblers always cut keys as well? Have you ever thought about that? Like, well, what's the crossover there?
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, Guinness, they do records and beer.
Exactly. Yeah, there's some oddities out there for sure. And that's what was kind of funny is we basically just didn't really have much of a direction. And so when we kind of sat down, we said, okay, if we're going to do this over again, or we want to like really push into an area, what should we focus on? What is going to be our thing? We have to niche down. And so we had, a couple different conversations. He wanted to do content. I wanted to do PPC. And for a really simple reason that PPC, you can point to something and say, it's working. Here's your money. Content, you're like, that may work, but I don't like it. It's like, man, I don't really want to go into every person's bathroom in America and redesign their bathroom and hope every single one of them likes it. It's not a good way to kind of live because it's emotional and it's feeling driven. It's not data driven, which is what marketers typically like. So we pushed into PPC, and that was kind of like the big thing. We were just, gung ho with PPC all the way up to 2022. We had 108 employees at Solutions 8, had 220 clients, and sold for an 8-figure acquisition in 2022. And so it was very lucrative, kind of blood, sweat, and tears for, 10 years straight kind of thing. And we ended up selling, or about 7 years straight, we ended up selling it. And then we actually have another agency that we sold in 2023. And then I've retained equity in 2 other agencies since then. So Qasim's kind of, semi-retired. He's kind of doing more staffing, like a staffing agency that he's got this. Then I kept on going with PPC because it was my passion. Then started diving more into meta and that kind of stuff. And so now I'm here today.
That's insane. So, by the way, niching down, obviously, the only way to scale anything, right? But why you already mentioned it's the sort of the black and whiteness of it, but was it because you sort of were more interested in that part as well? Like besides Meta, or what was it that made you sort of let's Google is where we're going to go down?
Yeah, it was always Google because it was harder. Meta was really simple, and you sneeze and 10 more Facebook agencies pop up. So it's kind of like, all right, like our competition is like anybody with an internet connection that can speak smart. But Google was like, that was where it was getting more black box, like Performance Max, even smart shopping back then was like the unknowns, like how does that work? And so we really started to adopt those new strategies, and we tore them apart, reverse engineered them, and figured out how they actually work for our clients' actual metrics. And at the time, what I always did is I was always really good at growing businesses because I've owned multiple businesses. I've owned multiple agencies. I own 3 e-commerce stores right now. Like I know how to do this because I do that. And what the people who are in this space typically don't do is actually grow businesses. And that's the big thing. You can be a good, media buyer and be really crappy at growing a company. And what the company needs is you to be a shitty media buyer, but really good at growing the company. The big thing that we saw is that, you can have a 500% ROAS account and hurt a company all day long.
Yeah.
And 90% of businesses, agencies, freelancers still do that today. That's why I'm still, forging ahead with like proper measurement. And that's what the advanced strategies that I'm teaching is like, you can kill conversion tracking in Google and still grow a company. And that's where you'll need to be a good media buyer.
In a weird way, it's almost gone backwards, right? Like you said, a couple of years ago, maybe in the golden, I would call the golden days of e-commerce, you could sort of start any dropship business, or you could do anything, throw up a few shitty ads and scale a business, right? But that just simply doesn't work anymore, and it's just, if at all, getting harder and harder, and you have to go back to how marketing's properly done, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which sort of ties into what I think a lot of people will specifically know you for, which is sort of, I suppose, come up quite a bit in the past half a year, was the kill the conversion tracking thing and Google manipulating CPCs. So anyone who's not totally stupid has realized that Google is manipulating the auction to a certain degree, or it will, right? In my opinion, it's already started when all the smart sort of shopping came in, and when they got rid of that, you couldn't really see your placements anymore. You didn't know what the fuck it was costing. You had no, and then it's just gotten worse from then. And then, of course, is the lawsuit like 2 years ago now when they admitted it. Or was that last year when they hiked the prices by 5% or something like that? I can't remember.
That was last year, yeah. They would even do like 10% and
10%.
Yeah, and that's what's funny. Smart shopping opened the door to auto targeting, and it saw such massive success because people were being tricked by the in-app ROAS so often that people just kept throwing more money at it and only measuring it by ROAS. So Meta's like, or Google's like, okay, so if I can use display and show an ad to a person and take 100% of the credit, I can do it on display. I can do it on now something new called Discover that we'll come out with. I'll do it on GSP. I'll do it on YouTube. I'll do it everywhere I want. I'll force people to do engage view conversions. You can't turn that off. So, we're using tag, that kind of stuff. So it's like, it basically just said, how much more can we fluff this stuff? Because look at our bottom line. And it also gave them the ability to set their own price on the conversions. I have so many instances in campaigns where I have $1 exact match click and a $4 broad match click due to what my bidding strategies are. And the $1 exact match is max clicks, and the $4 broad ones are conversion based, like a TCP/RT ROAS, maximize conversion value. And that's because it will use your own targets, your own goals to back into that metric. So if you could have gotten a 400, but you set a 200% to your ROAS, you'll sometimes see that they'll just double your CPC. So then it's like, cool, I backed into your goal.
So we've sort of, I think everyone has had a hunch, but when did that sort of first sort of properly occur to you that you know what, I think I'm onto something. And
Mm-hmm.
how, so the reason I'm asking, right, is obviously it's interesting and it's kind of detective work, and that's stuff that I love as well. But also, it kind of, as you would probably agree, it feels like it's sort of leading the entire platform ad absurdum, because the whole spiel of Google was to, oh, we can measure your data, we can, find the correct bid for you, and so on. That's what the entire thing is based on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like, what's the point of the platform if in the end you could just disable conversion tracking and just go back to more or less semantic word matching, right? Which essentially is what you sort of figured out with that feeder strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy, right? So how did you sort of come into that path, and what does that mean generally for this conversion tracking nonsense?
Yeah,
what,
right.
what do you do instead, right?
Yeah, and that's why you always have to do the proper measurements. So I always say like NCAC and MER LTV. So NCAC is cost of acquired first time
Yeah,
customer.
yeah,
You can't, and you don't measure that in app at all. That you can't fake. It cannot be manipulated, and you can't dump like $10,000 more per day into brand and make your company's cost of acquired first time customer go down. Your ROAS will shoot up to 10 million, but your actual cost for first time customer will actually go up instead, because you're spending more people who are going to buy anyway. So you're paying more for that sale. Cost of acquired first time customer going up. So it basically, when you take, and I worked with a lot of publicly traded companies and C-suites and learned how they actually measure company growth. And in publicly traded companies, that is literally the only thing. Like Chipotle sucks today because Arby's bought them and need to make them profitable. Like that's just how it goes. And so when you're looking at pure profitability, the way that the actual, Inc. 500 and like all the companies on the S&P and that kind of stuff, all those companies, the way that they measure it is never in app, never, ever in app. And we want to take these small companies and turn them into big companies, but we don't want to measure like the big companies. That's a fundamental flaw. And that's the reason why they stay small companies, is because they don't measure like big companies. And one of the things that really turned me on to this, can I share screen? Would that be all right?
yeah, of course.
All right. Well, that'll be fun. We'll do this little example here. So here's something that's funny. This is what would trick most people. We ran a YouTube campaign here where we spent 80 grand and made $1 million.
Yeah.
And then I shut it off at the best day ever. And that's because when we actually measured new customer growth and cost per acquired first time customer, things got worse. So what we're saying is, wait a minute, how do you spend 80 grand in the course of, just April to July and make 938,000? Why would you ever shut that off? Look at your ROAS is 1,200%. Your cost per acquired, sale on YouTube is under $10, and we're selling prescription medication. Like, oh my God, why would you ever stop? So when you look at, well, how did it actually, it's not days conversion, how did it actually get attributed? You can see that the people that were engaging on YouTube from a click perspective, we actually lost money. We lost about 14,000. And the people that were seeing the ads and converting were the same people who are seeing that were already converting anyway. So this simply showed ads to people who were already going to be buying, because this business has been in business over 25 years and makes over $5 million a day on people just buying anyway. So as long as Google can identify everybody that's on the website, show them an ad that no one ever clicks on, it gets to take 100% of the credit. So auto targeting is the death of Google, because it will try to only focus on conversions. And if you have a company that already has conversions, that's all this is going to reflect. So that's why nobody in their right mind that would measure in-app would ever shut this off. They wouldn't. And when we're looking at all time for this campaign here, for example, we ran it once, saw like some minimal performance, but not enough money. Ran it again, saw amazing performance, measured it properly, and then never turned it on again. So to take a 10xing YouTube campaign shut off, I found out that, hey, we lost 14 grand. We didn't make $1 million. We lost $14,000. And that's a publicly traded company, by the way. They can't lose money and shareholders invest more, stock price goes down. That is Armageddon for a publicly traded company. So when you measure actual company growth, it is not due to what Google can claim. It's, did I actually get a new customer? And this showed yes, but it was costing us way too much money. So we already have other platforms that are performing better than YouTube. So that's the difference right there, which is, if it's not going to work for the big companies, why does it work for you if you're trying to become them?
That's true. You know how I usually do it? It's got sort of suppose an interest in. We use post-purchase survey data to estimate YouTube ROAS. That's the only way I can realistically at the moment see if it works as a channel or not. That's sort of the only way I found it, because it's never really worked in app. It hasn't even actually worked in app for us. So these look like crazy results actually.
Yeah, it looks amazing, but that's only because it's going to be situational, and every client's going to have a different situation. And the clients that you want, the big clients, right? I want big clients. I want big spends. Those are also companies that have a lot of current customers and a lot of existing traffic. And you can't retain the big client if you believe in app and then try to take their hard-earned money and put it into there and hurt them. You're gone immediately. They don't care about in-app ROAS. So you can say, I have a 10 billion ROAS. They're like, yep, we lost $6. You're fired.
Yeah,
that's I've been fired more often off of fake data that I'm like, okay, that stops.
it's never the other way around, isn't it?
It never is. It never is. Well, you know what's funny is I can say, hey, what's funny is I can say, hey, my ad spend in app says I have a 0.1 ROAS, but they're like, that's fine, I scaled, and that's the reason why. And all platforms do it, because they all will always take full credit if they ever had a touch point anywhere. They will always take 100% credit. But if you have one sale that engaged in both channels, what's funny about this is you could have a YouTube search off of an ancillary search term that goes to your blog, that then your meta remarketing follows them around with a 4, 5, 6x frequency every day for the next 7 days. What do you think the post-purchase survey is going to say? I'll give you a good example. We have a client that has $20,000 outdoor kitchens and sales cycles like 2 months.
Sure.
We have a lot of traffic to our blog, which is, the best outdoor grill. Now they read this blog about the best outdoor grill and then they leave. Well, now my meta campaign has 2 campaigns that would go after that person specifically.
Yeah.
And showcase, check out the features of our kitchen. Check out the durability. Check out how weather resistant it is. See how easy it is to set up. Look at the cheap price. Look at our competitors. Look at the stars. All the Real Housewives of New Jersey just bought one. Watch this video of us installing it and having Joe and Melissa Gorga come out and be super excited and happy. And you're consuming all of this content only on Facebook. What is your post-purchase survey going to say?
Well, in an ideal world, if people are not stupid, then they would probably say, I've read a blog post or I've seen a LinkedIn piece. But very often it'll be, I have actually seen a meta ad, then yeah.
Yeah, so they have some recency bias. And one of the things that we focus on in terms of being able to kind of cut through that recency is benchmarking, benchmarking first click. And because that will give us the actual path. I like people, but traffic is stupid. That's the reason why if there's, a different color button, people are like, I don't like it. Like nothing makes sense. But when we're looking at this as an example, and I'll show you this. This is a customer path here on a client. Now, one person did this one time, and they were already in the email. So they clicked on an email, they visited the website directly, they clicked on an email, they had a Facebook campaign, they had a Google campaign, they had a Facebook campaign, another Google, 3 more Googles, 2 more directs, another Google direct, Google organic, Facebook, email, Google, email, and then an organic Google visit, and then they spend $62. What the hell is that post-purchase survey going to say? I have no idea. Could be random, but it also could be random every single time. Because these are all one people taking one path and making very small purchases, usually under $100. But dear Lord, that is a long path for a person to spend $50 on.
Mental.
Yeah. Now prospecting, Meta is going to say, look at that. My prospecting campaign got a prospecting sale. You're like, wow, look at we're prospecting. 2 weeks ago, they were already opening up your emails, Meta. So having that clear data, as in what the platforms will say, look what I prospected because I went to the website and found a person that's already been there 15 times. I'm like, that person's going to buy. And I took 100% credit for prospecting. And then the C-suite says, wow, our prospecting campaigns are crushing it. This person could have been organic for all we know. Who knows? We have no idea where this person came from. And so that's why I think post-purchase surveys are good. But on a path of 15, is it even true?
Yeah, it's getting harder. I mean, I see it in my own purchasing behavior, even for like a ridiculous small stuff. I mean, but what's the word? The dark funnel, right? Like that's what they call it. Yeah, you don't really know. Like sometimes I do some really wild shit. Like I was just save a page I've seen on a screenshot from an ad, and then 4 months later I'll buy, right? Like something like that. So some weird things. So it is, it is hard. So how do you? So we can't trust the in-app stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we're going to get to that later. I'm going to say it already because otherwise I'll forget. That's what I've written down just now as well. Is how can we take that to our advantage nonetheless? But how can we measure it anyway? Then, John, what's the if Google's fucked basically and Meta etc. What kind of tools do you use?
I always look at the conversion paths. Conversion paths are always, very, very helpful. So if you can what they call benchmark your first click, that is always going to be your best friend. And what benchmarking first click means is that if this campaign has gotten a first click and that first click brought me a 0.75 ROAS and I need a 3, then I need to aim for a 0.75 ROAS to get a 3x top line return. And so that benchmarking is one thing that I teach. I'll just use the same example because this is actually really cool to see. If you are looking at a time period of the last, let's just do year to date. So we'll do
what is the that's Northbeam, yeah.
Yeah, so this is Northbeam. It's one of the tools. I'm a minor equity shareholder in this company. There we go. That was hard to say. And this is something that we've used to grow. So for example, like if you're measuring as a good company, you're like, hey, don't buy these people for any more than $10. And I need my top line media efficiency ratio. I need my total company. Every dollar I give all of you people, Google people, Meta people, YouTube people, influencers, the Apple Oven, the Snapchat, the Twitter, the TikTok, the Amazon, all of you guys. If I give you $1, you all better give me $3.30 back. And if it doesn't, you all figure it out. That's how big companies run. Now, the way that they dive a little bit deeper is this right here. If I need to get a 3.3, it is a extremely hard pill to swallow. It's almost physically impossible for people to grasp the concept that if you dump another, $15 million into a 1.1x campaign, you'll get a 3.3. That doesn't equate in your mind. That doesn't mathematically equate, right? Like, wait a minute. How am I dumping the highest amount of ad spend increase in the highest amount of ad spend that is inside of the channels? 34 million compared to 13.42. This thing is spending anywhere between 15 times and at least more than 2 times than anything else. And it's only giving me a 1. Why would I dump the highest amount of money there? And that's because we're measuring clicks and we're benchmarking. As long as Meta does not go below a 1.15, that number could be a billion, and I'll still get a 3. Actually, not as difficult as it seems. If what's funny is your buying habits today are exactly what this replicates. And what that means is that if I were to spend more on Facebook and I got a click from somebody in Facebook, that person is going to buy on the website from that Facebook click. They're going to go see if they can get it free tomorrow on Amazon. And then they're also going to Google the brand and go buy it. Those are 3 things that people do. That's 3 things you do.
Yeah, 100%.
So we're looking at this here. When we see here, what's cool about this is when we put more money into Meta, we saw about an equal performance in Meta. This is just brand spend. It's just branded terms instead of Amazon. So that we didn't see as many people come out from that spend is why this thing went down. which is indicating overspend here. Why? Well, because we're capturing more demand than we're generating. This is generating demand. This is capturing demand. That's all it is. Generate over here, capture over here. This also has some capturing demand because we're generating demand here. It's being captured in Amazon. Then they're going to Google the brand, which I don't have to spend any more money on. And then they're going to be captured here. So we already know, and everyone would collectively agree, hey, if you see something on Meta, do you buy things on Amazon? Yes. Do you Google search the brand name when you want to buy from that product if you're not buying on Amazon? Yes.
100%.
Okay. So we know that those are two places that when you increase here, you're going to see an outcome there. And if you're close in your scale and you got your funding right, you can spend 59% and make 59%. The problem is we didn't. We overspent a little bit there. That was really nothing to do with us. But your benchmarking, you can kind of see here, it can go above. Like that's great for channels that are correlated channels to go above. Like you'll see that this thing is dropping NCAC and getting more new customers than more new visits than the increase in spend. It's coming from somewhere else. You can't increase by 6% and really bring new visits by 50% to have a better conversion rate and drop your CAC. Not when you dive a little bit layer deeper, that you'll see brand is the only thing increasing. So we know that as we spend here by 46%, we should see an average of 46% lift. So yes, 36 and 69 in more towards like the 70 by about the 50 range. Then you add another average of 33, and that drops the 50% range down into the 40% range. Right. I added 46, got 46. Good. These things really didn't change. Down 6, down 11, plus 25. They even out. So when you know your customer journey, and you know your customer paths, and you know where your customer's demand is being generated and where your customer demand is being captured, you will never lose money.
So it's pretty straightforward. So first of all, what you really do with realistically every company, you sort of map out first of all the customer journey as you know it by the best of your ability, of course, ignoring what dark funnel what we just had. Mm-hmm. And then as long as we are on a certain MER overall, you can see the demand generated or the first click generating channel, know what the MER of that was. And as long as that is fine, you can basically pump the budgets because you know exactly that if the first click generates this MER, you know all of the other demand capturing channels or all the other channel supporting channels will be supporting enough to have the overall MER that you want to have the business profitable.
Yeah, and it's exactly right. And when you are practicing good MER targets and we're practicing good NCAC targets, people, all right, for example, what would be your immediate response? Like, don't even think about it. What would be your immediate response? You're like, hey, Black Friday, Cyber Monday's here. We have to scale spend. You would say,
sure, why not?
Yes, exactly, right? We all do. Would you include brand in that spend to capture the people looking for you during the sale period?
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody does, right?
We try to minimize the spend on brand if possible.
Yeah. Good marketers do. That's why you and I are talking. But your gut and the client, especially the clients, can be like, scale, like hit that spend. Like it's time to shine. Like yada yada yada. And we have a company. It's a company that actually is partners with a gentleman who is a fashion mogul VC. He owns parts of like some major fashion brands that are in Saks Fifth Avenue, and one that if I mentioned, you're like, oh, they're in every mall in America. Like I know that. So I'm own a part of an agency that is partners with that gentleman that goes and buys these fashion brands and gives it to us. I bought this company, you guys make it big. Okay. So we get to do whatever we want. And I love that because I get to showcase some true examples of why you do and do not do things. And this is one of my favorite examples because it's the highest in-app ROAS that I know I had nothing to do with. It's a record for me, actually. This company on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, for example, we hit a 289,000 ROAS. Woo! Like that's a record.
That reminds me, one time, right, John, I once had a watch client who sold Rolexes and so on. And it's the God's honest truth. On the first day of the ad, someone clicked one one click only, and they bought a Rolex straight away, and we had a Rolex.
It's like $1 for a $27,000 purchase.
That's correct. It's insane. It's like the funniest day ever. A tribute.
Oh, I love that stuff. and here, like, check this out. This is what we saw here. For 75 cents more in brand spend. Okay. We spent 3/4 more, not even $1 more. We got $106,000 more.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing growth. And what's nice about this is what Google will do when you have your brand spend. It's like, all right, fine. We can now charge you a penny for a CPC, and we'll charge you a nickel for a CPA. It will do that. Like, brand will do that. You can see, how did I spend 75 cents more? And they're like, yeah, but you're going to miss out on clicks. How did I get 2,500 clicks for 75 cents if I'm missing out?
Yeah, hard to know.
You don't need to spend in brand. That 285,000 ROAS had nothing to do with me. That had nothing to do with that campaign.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And that's what's great is my NMR and my NCAC and my MER and our profitability is only higher because I didn't take some of that money and then just give it back to Google. That's business growth.
In the end, Northbeam's quite popular in America, right? So a lot of people in the US use that. A lot of Europeans use something like Eclat or Triple Whale or similar. Well, it'll all work the same, right? Depending on what you do. So you were just talking about benchmarking the sort of MER of the first click, right? Sort of the first touch point. How would you integrate that with Google? Because in the end, something that is quite challenging to a lot of listeners and to even to myself, and has been for a long time, it still is at times, is to start generating scale on Google. And generally speaking, what happens is people start with shopping, PMAX, etc., maybe even some sort of prospect in search. At some point hit the ceiling, right? You just do, because there's either not more search volume, or the search volume you start to get into is not transactional anymore. It's informational, right? Sort of that's the example you mentioned before about the blog post, right? People who buy like a big old extension for their garden or something like that, they're going to be reading some informational stuff first, right? They're not going to Google buy garden extension or something like that and buy from the website. So how do you do the same but with Google search or shopping? What would you sort of recommend to someone if they want to start scaling with that?
Yeah, so what I would say is you'd have to get some sort of third-party tool. Like, it has to be. If you're using your marketing channel as your business's health report,
you're fucked.
You're going to have a bad time. Yeah, exactly. You are fucked. Yeah. And that's what I think is important is the first thing that you should do is always set a goal for your company. Even before you look at your ROAS, set a goal for your company. I want to have 100 new customers this month. I want to have 1 million new customers this year. I want to be $10 million brand by next year, whatever the goal is. But then you have to look through a list of MPIs, what we call them, the marketing performance indicators, that have nothing really to do with your actual ad spend and has more to do with your business. And you want to be able to identify for your company these metrics here, because these are key business metrics influenced by traffic. You'll see that it wasn't caused or wasn't measured. It's influenced by traffic. So we typically look, and this presentation usually does this, where I go back a screen and show like these two, where it's like, this is what you're typically measuring now, your CPA and your ROAS. That's what everyone does. That's usually in app, but we need to also measure these here, because this is more to do with your actual business health as compared to your marketing campaigns and how your business is being influenced by the traffic that you're driving. You can say caused, that's fine, but it is definitely more to do with like what we say the influences. Now, if you want to have 100 new customers this month, great. What is a new customer costing you right now? $80. How much money does it make you? $100. Uh-oh. again, you can have a 10,000 ROAS in Google Ads because you're only spending 80% of your money on brand, which means the 20% of the money that you are spending is not very efficient. And you just found out that 20% of your spend that actually is going to the right audience is not even profitable. And you're waiting for, why is this 10,000 ROAS kicking in any day now? I shouldn't be making money. So by measuring this, it removes all the fluff, removes all the bullshit. Google can't trick you on your cost to acquire first-time customer, your business's media efficiency ratio, how much you put into traffic, how much actual cash you get out of your entire company, how you measure that on only your new, what those people are going to be worth in 1, 3, 6, 9, 12 months. What's your gross versus your net profits? What is the average order value of a returning customer versus a new? They could spend $20 new and then $200 when they return. You know that. The new versus returning visits. Are you actually able to scale this because this campaign is actually not bringing you the majority of new traffic? So every dollar you give is only getting you 50% of new visitors. You cut out half of your ability to reach your NCAC and your MER immediately. You'll find out that it's actually $6 to bring a new person to your website, not $2, because you're getting a $2 $1 CPC, but only 1 out of 6 people are new. So it's actually 6 times more costly than you thought. Why isn't this working? So all of these things here, this is what you'd have to get good at. Set goals, then identify this. And this will absolutely tell you, is my campaigns on track to deliver my company's goals? And if so, scale, regardless of what ROAS is. If not, stop spending so much money on traffic until that's back in line.
That's so how do you identify how it still links to campaigns? Do you know what I mean? Like, because some accounts, of course, more complex than others, or less complex, right? The less complex it is, one product store, the easier it is. For instance, we got one client, they sell acupressure mats, right? It's one fucking product. It's easy, and it's exactly the same thing. So in fact, a lot of people actually find it on Google. So we find, even if we're below what the ROAS should be, we're hovering at a quite nice level and the business is doing nicely. But if you have a bigger setup, how would you still use some form of in-app indicators, or do you really just go, okay, I can see, for instance, by manipulating conversion tracking or similar, I can force Google to get cheaper clicks, and that's just what I'm going to push it through, regardless of what the rest is happening on the site. Because a traditional media buyer would still go into a campaign and then turn certain products off, for instance, if they are generating a lot of clicks but no conversions, etc., etc. So it kind of like negates that entire approach how you used to do Google, right?
Right. And really the only thing that you want to focus on inside of your spending channels, Google, Meta, whatever it is how much money you're spending on that product / category of products. Because you're going to want to find your gross versus net. And I'm trying to kind of go through those 15 MPIs as quickly as possible, as this usually takes a few days. But when you're looking at your product MER, let's say I have sunglasses that I have about on average $100 in profit in, but then I also have business cards that have 30 cents profit in. Those are going to have different points of measurement. The only thing that you're really going to care about and actually do inside the channels is spend, because you're not supposed to look at the conversions yet. Conversions can come from any different area depending upon your structure. First time purchase, recharge purchases, upsell, cross sells, whatever it is. So what you want to look at is try to what we call, and that's why you're going to hear the word benchmarking a lot, because you have to do that. If you benchmark what your in-app CPA is of a product, that equates to a top line MER on that product or product category. That's how you have to separate out that campaign. So I'm a big fan of hyper segmentation, and I don't want to lump in my, outdoor umbrella with my dog toy in the same campaign and then spend one lump sum and cross my fingers. Then that's not a good strategy. That's not business growth. That's not hitting product SKU level sales, goals by the quarter. That's just like leaving it up to Google and being like, good luck, I'll collect my monthly paycheck. So when you're looking at a specific product category, I like to do product categories for very specific reasons. But when you look at a product category, you say, okay, what is my profit margin for this product category as an average? And typically you're going to find product categories are really similar.
Yeah.
Similar audiences, similar LTV.
Typically how we structure them depends from what kind of store it is, right? So, yeah.
And then you say, okay, if I spent $1,000 on those product categories, what did that product category deliver me in terms of overall revenue? And if it's a 4, 5, 6x, great. That's what it is costing you. But you do that for each one of them. What is the spend in the channel and then what actually sold? Because a lot of times you're going to have overlap, and nothing inside of Google is going to make sense for you to actually do this in app. So when people are like, oh, I'll look at my product list and my SKUs and I'll find that out. And that's where you actually start to miss the information. Because as I look at, I'm just going to choose an example here. And let me just go with like the last 7 days. In the last 7 days, we have a 165. It's got $100 CPA. Great. Inside of, skirts in winter. Yeah, go figure. Yeah, skirts in winter don't work very well. Cool. Anywho, we're looking at the purchases. Here's what you want to look at. Take the price of a product and then take the value per conversion of that product. And if that product is the product that's sold, those two should align pretty well. So I have a $128 product that averages $85 per sale. How did your $128 product
bought something else, right?
Yeah, I mean, now these are all 128. So why is that 85, 79, 108, 106, 85, 72? It's the same product at the same price. What is going on, Jeremy?
The conversion value is bullshit, or people have been buying something else, right?
Yeah, or buying multiples.
Yeah.
So there's always those things like where you'll have, I'm not saying that this one was always multiple. Actually, let me do like the last 30 days. Here's what's kind of funny.
There's something said sometimes about brands, though, that you have hero products which are introducing a lot of clicks, but not actually selling well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's what's funny is you can't use in-app, because what's interesting about this is this product here, and I'll use an example. There. This product here has a price of $168 and an average order value in the last 5 sales of $190. So this product here is either bought and something else is bought, maybe this one. I mean, you have no idea. So this time, sometimes your average order value is higher than your price, and sometimes your average order value is lower than the price. And that all depends on the units per order and what products were being sold. So if you look at this and say, okay, I know that I just need to get a 3X in skirts. Cool. But did you know that skirts aren't even selling? Now, if you were measuring that outside, you say, I spent $1,000 on skirts. Skirts didn't sell. What the hell? You'll find that out in the second day, not 2 months later by your agency be going, I don't know why it's not working. Huh. I mean, you're not selling skirts? You're lying. Google says you are. Well, who do you believe? Yeah. So that's what's interesting is by looking at a product, if I spend X amount of dollars on this product category, what did the product category deliver as a result of actual sales? And then is that profitable based on the product category's profit margin? If so, hit the gas. If not, find out where that ad spend is going, use Customer Pass, click on that ad, buy that product. Okay, that's not working. That's why I always say you need some sort of third-party attribution tool to kind of tell you what's actually going on from the traffic.
That's insane. Do you kind of usually manually just calculate that, or is there a tool that does that sort of on SKU? Because in the end, what you just said is more or less like an MER per product category, right? That's what
product MER. Exactly. That's why I said product MER.
Yeah.
So when you have big ones, if you have 10,000 SKUs, what categories? Probably 10 categories. You have 10 categorical campaigns. Great. There's step one.
That's mad. Knowledge bomb. Really good. Maybe let's try and get the curveball into sort of the second thing that a lot of people have been deploying, because that's something that you've put out there a while, is your feeder strategy.
Yeah.
Which you called it. Maybe this is something that you could just repeat to the uninitiated to a certain degree, and also how that can be deployed maybe to existing setups. That'd be quite interesting.
So here's a good way to do this here. I launched a feeder strategy on this account here. Fairly sizable client. Let's do this here. I think we spent about $500K in the last 30 days. So good client, good size. This standard shopping campaign was actually launched here on Wednesday, October 30th. And after not fighting with the client, because they're really awesome people, but like, John, we tried that before. See, here and here and here, and it never works. And we're like, woo! And now we got this thing to rock and roll. Here's what's interesting is before October 30th, this campaign, let's just do October 1st through the 29th, okay? And if we look inside of all of the campaigns, they had no standard shopping running. That was like the first day was like the 29th or whatever it is. So you can see it just started. So let's just do like the 27th. Fine. So standard shopping didn't spend anything yet. It's really, really, really minimal. It spent this much and did not even spend anything in the date range that we're looking at here lately. So we had very, very minimal spend. They're like, see, we spent $4,000 and made $2,000. Like this or $3,000. It's not working. Look at PMAX though. PMAX is doing a little better. Spends $87,000, makes $63,000. Now this is a subscription coffee, so we go by in-app CPA, and we want in-app CPA to try to be lower. But $45 for a new subscribed customer, fantastic.
Fabulous, yeah.
Right.
Good for coffee. Coffee's quite tricky as well. Lots of very competitive.
Yeah. So here's what's interesting: is that Performance Max campaign. Watch this. Go into the Performance Max campaign. And if we look at the asset groups, and at the time, you're going to have to just kind of like trust me and believe me because it's been changed since then a little bit. But I think it was this coffee one here was going to the page that was /pages /mushroom coffee special. So remember /pages. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got /pages. What we did is used a different page for the SKU. This one is going to products. Not /pages, /products. Allowed me to then go into the insights reports and go into the report editor. And in the month of October, 1st through the 27th for that campaign, remove mobile friendly click rate. Well, of these basically 3, I did it too quickly. Keep landing page and campaign, keep these here. Then look at this here. If you focus on the conversions, the cost per conversion, and the conversion rate, the asset group wants to send it to the pages. The shopping wants to send it to products. What's the conversion rate between the two?
Enormous.
9 versus 1. Where are the clicks going? 123,000, 8,000. Look at the CPA, 39.43. Everyone's like, but John, shouldn't Google have seen that it's cheaper and that it has a higher conversion rate and given more ad spend to it? No. You just gave them 120 grand. You think they give a shit?
Yeah.
So then we see, okay, so the product is doing much better. So this was what kind of campaign do you think you'd start for feeder strategy right now? Well, I want a damn shopping campaign.
Oh, yes.
So let's do this. Then in that same time period, like the next month, we'll just go all the way up before Black Friday, and then we'll compare the period here.
So that PMAX, what was the bidding strategy on that? Did you like sort of just kick that
it's
up?
It's a 50% TROAS. That's what it changed into. It was actually getting like I think 100%.
Okay.
So watch this though. Now I've taken these two campaigns here and combined them together and said, okay, this is feeder strategy now. We know that your Performance Max sucks. We know that shopping is amazing. So we took shopping and added 75 grand all the way up to Black Friday and Cyber Monday. It wasn't even Black Friday, Cyber Monday. My conversion rate, remember inside of the report said, hey, your shopping gets 9. I was getting a 15. Performance Max still getting a 1. So I identified that Performance Max was doing what? Auto-targeting of display traffic of existing customers and taking all the credit and not actually doing anything. But the ROAS looked good enough. The CPA looked good enough. It was a CPA. That's actually you're tacking on a $45 cost per acquisition to people who are going to buy anyway on a $30 product. You literally did nothing but take your Performance Max, strip out 100% of your net profit margin, and they got paid to do it.
That's enough.
You're not good at building businesses, are you?
No.
I'm not saying not as you. It's just like that's what happens. And it wasn't actually, that's what's funny is this client did not do that. This is what Google is doing to people. So that's what's interesting is this thing now has a $28 CPA instead of a $34. So not only did we drop our CPA by $20, we scaled up $50K all the way before our biggest sale date. Yeah, John, everything's don't really work before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Nope, you don't know your accounts very well. I scaled up with a better result the day before Black Friday with $75K and got better than October. I'm not saying I'm the best. All I'm saying is that it sounds like I'm boasting. I'm actually, anybody can do this. Literally anybody. If you're watching this right now, go do it. You can do this too. Like, that's how simple this shit is. It's very, very, very easy. It's just, it's complicated to figure out. Once you do, you're like, well, shit, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's easy in hindsight, right?
Exactly. But I mean, everyone's here to learn this stuff, but it's up to you to go enact it. And it's hard to find self-starters nowadays. It's so hard to hire people that are just like, I will figure this out and build this company. They're very few and far between. But everyone has the capability. I'm just not the smartest. I just made the most amount of mistakes, got fired the most, spent the most amount of money, and figured out what actually works. And now I get to deliver that to you.
That honestly has been really valuable. So that one shopping campaign, that was on 150 ROAS.
Mm-hmm.
You put it, yeah, okay, and you just pumped the gas on it, and it just took a life on its own.
It actually wasn't even like a 150 ROAS. Surprisingly, it was. I pushed that thing. I actually pushed this up to 150 after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but throughout the entirety, these two campaigns were doing 60% T ROAS and getting a first week's performance of like a 2.5. So that's what's cool is I don't know we don't have enough time to kind of prove this to you. But if we go into the standard shopping campaign and we go back here just in the first week of starting this, which is this time period here, let's just do the 27th through the 2nd here. This is when this campaign started. And what you'll see in my change history during this campaign for this time period here is that my campaign was that was her setting it to 100. You'll see that I came in here and set it to 40. So my TROAS target was set to 40. And you'll see that this has not changed. Oh, I went to 65 November 19th. So I had on October 31st to November 19th, I had on a 40. So if we go from...
just for everyone listening, it says constantly, budget raised from this, budget raised from...
Yeah, right? Yep. Budget raise. So
John loves to pump the budget.
Oh yeah, scale, baby, scale. So that's what's cool is you can see this. I went from between the time period of October 31st here, I had a 40% all the way up to when I changed it up to a 65% on the 19th. So October 31st to the 18th, watch the results of EDD shopping. That 40% TROAS was giving me a 1.23 and a $22 CPA with a 16% conversion rate. So it's not that the 40% is going to try to get a 40%. The 40% is going to allow me to take this thing from $250 a day in sales to $4,000 a day in sales in 1 month.
Yeah, that is fun stuff.
Yep.
Wow, cool. That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like almost like a little bit sort of I need to go away and do a couple of things, which maybe
drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, which maybe takes me to ask one or two questions because I've had a lot of your time already. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. So what's one thing I think everyone who is listening should go away and do now and think about, which you would tell them if you could grab them by this, by the shoulders and shake mm-hmm. them and say, go away, do fucking that right now.
Yep. First thing I would tell anybody that is going to be starting on anything that you learned today is go and set first your company's goals. Ignore that Google even exists. What does your company need to turn into? And then watch this recording. Look at those metrics that I shared, and identify what your company is currently doing. And if we need to come back on and do an explanation or whatever it is, that's something that we can do. But if you're looking at all those metrics, which I think I might have covered most of those, but try to identify what those metrics are, and that will tell you how your actual goal tracking is. And you'll find out either that you're way better or way worse than you thought. And that's when you're going to stop looking at in-app performance to actually build your company.
Wow, let's pop it at that. John, thank you so much for coming on.
This is great. Fun stuff.
It's been so much fun. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Ta-da.
Thank you for listening to Google Ads Unleashed. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. If you found value in today's podcast, please share it with others and leave a rating and a review. For more information or to connect with Jeremy, Check him out online at www.younganddigital.marketing. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.